Hey, folks, before we get into our episode today with Bradie Ewing, just want to make a quick note that we did have a couple technical difficulties there during our recording with Brady. So if you hear some weird pops and some weird in and outs with the voices, I've done my best I can to clean it up, but we had multiple technical issues that we ran into. Still think it's a really awesome conversation with another fullback. So obviously, Bernie and Brady have a great time together as representatives of Fullback U. But we, appreciate you guys taking the time to spend it with us here today. And sorry again about some of the audio video issues that you're going to encounter. They're not too bad, but I did want to give you fair warning on the front end. So hope you enjoy our conversation here with Brady and on Wisconsin.
Bernstein again, big opening, pass 5, pass 10, Burlow's a man, and he goes all the way to the 15-yard line. 17 yards out of the
Welcome back to Believe in Badgers on the Believe Network, presented by FanDuel Sports and Oak Ridge Wealth Management. I'm Matt Perkins, joined, as always, by Badger legend, the Hebrew Hammer himself, Matt Bernstein. Bernie, how are we doing today?
Dude, listen, when you get a bunch of fullbacks on the podcast, it's the best day in the world. It's like a holiday, Matt Perkins, every time we're here. Super excited. This guy was crushing dudes, catching balls. Now he's crushing deers. It's amazing. Apple Doozy. That's right. Dude, you got a lot of good trophies there, man.
Thanks. Yeah, it's something I enjoy doing. That was the one negative that came with football is I didn't get as much time out in the woods, but I'm making up for it nowadays, getting my kids out there and enjoying the heck out of it. And so yeah, those are some of the decor in the office.
I love it.
I love it too, man. Well, that is obviously Bradie Ewing returning to the show, one of our favorite people. We're here to talk fullbacks because, let's face it, that's our favorite thing around. We're going to get right into it here, guys. Brady, there is a lot of structural changes for this Wisconsin offense this year, and they will be bringing back the fullback. Let's talk about that a little bit because they haven't had a fullback for a couple of years. The offense went downhill. I don't want to say they're correlated, but I'm not going to say they're not correlated. So let's talk about what you sort of envision as what works about having a fullback in 2025, because the game is so different these days. But why is the fullback still an important position here?
Well, I think for a bunch of different reasons. I think back when I was in college, everybody primarily was running the 4-3 defense, and we went to Michigan and they were running the 3-5. And I just remember how different that was going into game prep that week to just work on different IDs and assignments based on your basic run plays and blocking that. And I feel like as more and more teams go away from the fullback, it can be a similar thing to that from a defensive perspective, looking at Wisconsin as an offense. I think it's a different, skill set that person brings to the table that, just brings a different flair. And I think most importantly, the history at Wisconsin is power football, downhill football, and just smashing people in the mouth. And I think that is encompassed in what the fullback is. And I think that mentality needs to be reestablished in Wisconsin football.
The defense has to be on their toes. A 4-3 has 7 guys in the box. You don't have a fullback in there, you're playing at a disadvantage. There's one guy can't block, one guy, you don't count the QB, which we find out on inside very quick, Brady. That's 9 on 7 for a reason, because you have 2 guys who are worthless besides the ball carrier. Like how much would you say that is important when you're playing teams so they have to game plan against it?
It's huge. I mean, you look at the NFL, that is magnified to the 10th degree. The ability that is what it's all about. It's all about matchups, personnel, getting people on their heels, getting the matchup you want with a tight end or fullback or a certain receiver against a certain defensive look. And I think in college, especially as people continue to run spread, the ability to have a fullback that can block at the point of contact, be able to, create matchups and even give your quarterback a read. I think that's important. We started doing it when I was in school, but starting in certain alignments with the fullback, you can see whether you're in man-to-man, you're in zone defense, you can run shifts and motions out of that to get yourself into good matchups or good spacing on the field. So I think it's super valuable, and excited to hear Wisconsin's getting back into that.
Bradie, I didn't even set you. I didn't tee you up for this, which is perfect because you teed yourself up. So I asked Bradie to come on because he broke the mold in my eyes of what the fullback truly is at Wisconsin. It became, you look at Cecil and you look at actually Chad Coons was a little bit, but he was a downhill guy. Me, Presley, downhill dudes, blockers. Rentmeester, you're talking about guys who just went straight ahead and hit people hard with their helmets. But Bradie was a guy who started motioning, lining up at different places. To me, that kind of feels like potentially what we could get this year with Jackson Aker as not a huge guy, right? Not 260 pounds, but a guy who's athletic, can line up everywhere, can touch the football, can catch. So Bradie, I want to talk to you. What was your experience when you came into the huddle or the locker room, the first meeting, and Coach Chris is like, yo, Bradie, we're going to line you up in 100 different places. We're going to move you around. Talk to us about that, because you're talking about the fullback moving annoys defenses. They all say, no, it doesn't, but that's not true. Because if you line a guy up, the linebacker has to run out there sometimes, or a cornerback's on you. These guys are uncomfortable. And that's what I think, Bradie, and you did it marvelously. So that's why I thought you broke the mold for like guys like Ingold now, right? Dudes who are not the typical run straight ahead and literally lower the boom. Not saying you couldn't do it, but it just wasn't what your job was needed.
Yeah, and even for those guys that, or teams that have fullbacks, a lot of times they don't do that. And so being able to split things out, to be able to run you in motion, run you and doing different things, that creates a big personnel matchup, and stuff they're typically not doing is 21 or 22 personnel, or even 23 personnel. We threw some curveballs in the past where we were doing some weird stuff in 23 personnel just to create something that they had to prepare for on film in a different look, so that it just took time up in that game planning process for the defense. And so I think that's huge. My mindset when, Coach Chris kind of threw it out there, I was excited because I was historically, a running back, which we talked about last year or year or two ago on the podcast here. Running back in high school, running back coming into Wisconsin. So to be able to have that, versatility, whether it be on third downs as a running back or being split out, it was fun. And I think it, like we're talking about here, created a different dynamic for the offense as well. So that was a win-win.
So we jump into the offense that we don't truly know. We can also talk about all these other things, but we don't know the offense yet. We have been watching a ton of stuff. I've been reading the Badger Observer like it's my job. Bradie, what are you excited? Like, what are you, when you're like, okay, we haven't been good in a couple of years, but I think we're going to change because of
the old coordinator. I think Jeff Grimes, and I've heard some of his interviews and seen some of his conversations, and just that mentality shift as an offensive coordinator with his history as a offensive line coach, and just wanting to reestablish that culture of physicality. And I don't even care if you line up in the eye all the time, but I just love that culture of physicality, and just, we're going to out-discipline you, out-physical you, and wear you down throughout a game. And I feel like I hear some of the Wisconsin of old in his voice when I hear him talk, and even just the way he communicates. So that's what I get excited about. And then, like you said, Jackson Aker, I think, is going to be the guy from a fullback perspective who I think lost some weight in years previous to help out at running back, just with the transition in offensive scheme. And so to see him transitioning back to fullback, I'm excited about what his versatility can bring, and still some of those playmakers that have maybe some of that spread or air raid type skill set, trying to combine that and meld that together should be pretty special and fun to watch.
Yeah, well, and just really quickly, Burn. They've also got Tyler Jancy, who was at linebacker, has moved to fullback as well. And he was a running back, a very accomplished running back at Batavia in Illinois, before he came on to Wisconsin as a linebacker. And I think he's someone, this is Jackson Aker's last year. I think that he's someone who in the future can also bring that versatility, especially though as someone with the ball in his hands as well, because he was a very accomplished running back in high school.
Bradie, what did you play at? Were you 240, 250, 248, 245?
Yeah, in college, my senior year, I was 245, and then got down by the end of the season to 240, lost some weight throughout the season. But earlier in my career, I think my junior year, I was like 235, 240. So I struggled to keep it up.
Dude, and you look fantastic. If anyone watching, this guy's wearing a large t-shirt. I am wearing an extra large Wu-Tang t-shirt, and it's bordering on double X at this point.
Wu-Tang?
Dude. So now you gotta rock it to just, tell people on a Zoom what kind of day it's gonna be today.
I love it.
We gotta thank you. It actually was just on the top of the laundry pile, and it fits. It's softy. Neither here nor there.
Are you a guy that wears like the same 3-shirt rotation, or you go deep sometimes in the pile to?
Sometimes I go deep when I feel like going deep, but most likely it's like, you got kids. I got like 3 seconds to put a t-shirt on, and it's like I put, I have a Moana shirt that I love rocking. I think people look at this big dude wearing like a Moana t-shirt, and they're like, "What the heck is this guy thinking?" Right? I'm like, "Man, my kid likes it." That's all. I wore a Blippy t-shirt to work out today. Like, I go from Blippy, Moana to Wu-Tang. Got a lot of likes.
As a guy coming from Richland Center to Madison, I roomed with Antonio Finellis that first summer going into, being a freshman there, and he was a South Florida kid. So I got a quick quote unquote baptism to Wu-Tang, to the Jordan shoe culture, and Antonio. Just awesome to see his coaching journey now and all he's doing. But yeah, that's where I was initiated with the Wu-Tang Clan. He showed me the dance and everything.
Dude, they span generations. They span whoever you are as a human. It's just great stuff. Okay, that was a huge turnaround. Please, let's go hard. But because I think we were talking with Jake, and he said that Jackson Acres about 248 or 252. It's like right around there. So he's larger than he's been in the past, which I agree with you. He had to lose some weight to help out, which I'm excited for, because he is that guy he can just do everything. That's what's exciting. Bradie, what was your favorite thing to do? Like, was it to line up all the way out besides running back and forth? That was what I hated about motion. Like, you literally lined up all the way over there, sprinted back to the backfield, and then had to run a play tired.
Heavier Bradie didn't appreciate that as much as I probably would nowadays. But my favorite thing to do, honestly, one of my favorite plays to run would be either power or weak side lead zone. So I think Bob or Panther, and to read it like a running back, insert through the line of scrimmage, go find your guy, cover him up, drive to the whistle, and all of a sudden you just out of the corner of your eye see the running back, creasing off of your block. It was so rewarding, and that is a different type of rewarding than it was when you were toting the rock yourself as a running back in high school or whatnot. But just a ton of appreciation for that. Just seeing all of the pieces of the puzzle to come together, no matter what play it was. But if you were able to be the point of contact that then spurred that running back's run, that was pretty rewarding.
Well, my question then is, like, how do you build that relationship between the tailback and the fullback, right? Because your tailback has to know how you're going to block, and you have to know how your tailback wants you to block on a certain different play, on a certain different look, right? Are they going to be looking to cut inside, outside, whatever? Because you obviously had a great relationship with your running backs, and that's why you guys were so successful. Yeah. With bringing a fullback back into the fold this year, how can those guys build that rapport that they need in order to sort of maximize the blocking and running capabilities of the players?
Yeah, great question. I think for me, what helped me a ton with blocking as a fullback was my running back experience. Being able to know, okay, on weak side zone, I'm reading the first defensive lineman, on the outside shade of the guard. And if he slants in, I'm inserting outside. If he stays outside, I'm going to press up on that guard and slide inside to then go work to my backer. And I think with Jackson's experience being a running back this last year or two, I think that will help him from a vision perspective. And it was Coach John Settle said that to me. As I made the transition to fullback, he said, just read it like you were the running back. So we're watching the same general keys. You had to do a little bit quicker because you had less, you're at 4 or 5 yards versus 7 or 8 yards deep in the backfield. So had to be able to process it and make a decision. And then, if you do make a decision, if it's not super clear picture, do it physical and do it fast, and the running back will make you right. That's what he always said. So I think with Jackson's experience, I'm excited to see how he can meld those together back into the fullback role, and how they exactly use him. I don't know. Have you guys been watching much for Do they have any clips out there on what they've been doing here
So-
this fall camp and
so
studying it?
It's interesting. We talked with Jake Coco about this last week, and the media is sort of limited on what they're really allowed to sort of like say and put out there and clips and stuff like that. And I think it's also interesting. We should note that technically both Tyler Jansey and Jackson Aker are still technically listed as tight ends on the roster, but they are playing fullback. We know that they will be playing effectively fullback. There will be carries had by those guys as well. But I think that one of the things that I'm interested in seeing, especially with Jackson Aker, like I guess this is a Jackson Aker love fest for a podcast today, which I'm fine with.
Let's invite him on next time.
I mean, listen, we would love to. They're in camp. We know they're busy in camp. So I don't know if we can get them then. Maybe we'll get them in season. Who knows?
I don't know if they're busy. I mean, yes, they are, but the rules have changed so much. I'm sorry, Matt Perkins, to bring this up. Bradie, I just think it's funny because you can only practice once and you can do walkthroughs. But like, I'm on this pillbox for no reason other than it sucks so much for me that I want it to suck for everyone else, and it's not fair. And I know how much practicing 2 times a day and twice a day or 3 times is not what you should be doing physically or mentally for people's brains. But when I showed up, Barry Alvarez on the hottest day of the camp gave us an ice pop. We took a 5-minute break. That was not helpful. I don't want to freaking ice pop.
I actually want to push back on that for not helpful for mental, because I do think that the fact that when you're going those 2 a days and you're being pushed so close to your limit is what you kind of need to get through some of those fourth quarters, right? I mean, Bradie, you were on the team in 2010 for the Ohio State or the Ohio State game, right? With the return.
Yep.
I forget who was on with us years ago, but they were saying that everything they had done in fall camp had been about that game and being mentally and physically ready for that game. And I don't know if you can do that with the way the rules are these days.
Yeah, it's a totally different game. And I was probably a part of that transition a little bit. We went from my very first year being able to actually do 2 a days practice to later in my career, you could do a walkthrough in the evening or in the morning and then have an actual practice. So the walkthroughs were still pretty intense, wearing spiders and, you're fitting people up without pads on and just your helmet on. But and I never went to camp off site. All of my camps are right at Camp Randall and in Madison there. So I'm probably a part of that transition a little bit, Bernie, but I agree with you guys. I think it's whether it's in the weight room, whether it's in fall camp, whether it's in practice throughout the week, all of that is a crescendo to have you peaking at the best time that you need to in the season. And that doesn't necessarily disparage the opponents you played previous to that. But I remember specifically Brian Bott, wanting to peak in those weeks of the season from a physical standpoint. And that's how he programmed throughout the season, was to have us peaking against Ohio State. I think we played maybe another big opponent, maybe the following week.
Are you thinking what Bond? That story.
There's a lot to that.
Okay, there's a lot to it. It's not the guy's fault. I actually think it's a good thing. But my thought of like going away to camp is kind of funny when you only practice once and then have a walkthrough. That's it. But I like going away to camp because that's what I know.
I mean, at least the guys now get to go to Platteville for they are away at camp. Now it's not being at the seminary. They have air conditioning and things like that. They have access to their cell phones, their cell phone service, things you didn't get out there at the seminary. And I'm curious, we talked about having Jake on, and he's actually coming out with a feature over there on Badger Observer this week about what they actually are doing when they're not practicing, which I'm very excited to read. It might be out by the time you guys are listening or watching this. So, but I want to get back though, Bradie, to talking about sort of, schematically with the fullback and how do you share all these touches? Because we know they're going to have 3 running backs that need touches in Yakimelli Jones and Dupree. I know they want to get Aker some touches, especially in late game, grinding him down. How do you divvy that up in that running back room when there's only one ball to go around? Plus, you've got a true wide receiver 1 in Vinny Anthony, Trech Kekahuna, who needs the ball, who's definitely a playmaker. Like, how do you balance all of that?
I think you got to find, look at, I want to go back to the, years I play because it's just easy to draw correlations. But you look at Monte, Melvin, and James White. I think each of those, what they call the three-headed monster or something like that. But each of those guys had their specific role and responsibility, from, the first and second down back to the third down specialist to kind of the, high performance guy, and Melvin when he was running more jet sweeps and things like that. So I think settling in over the first, they don't have a ton of time this year with their non-conference schedule, but in years past, it was always nice to kind of figure out what those roles and responsibilities could look like, and and then how those evolve during the game. Sometimes in some games somebody gets hot and you ride that hand. And I think you need a special group of guys that are bought into the bigger picture to help you accomplish that, because they have to be okay with not being the guy every single game. And I know with those three guys I mentioned earlier, that was definitely the case. And I think with these three guys, hopefully they can find a way to do that, to find that balance with one another, and being okay with not always being the star guy.
The end of the day, the goal is to win. Like that's it. At least when I was playing, like it didn't matter who was the person who was being the most successful, was winning. Right? You're always happy when everyone does well, but it doesn't matter if everyone stinks and you win. That's all that matters. Like that's it. So I'm hopeful, Bradie, like you're saying, like, everyone buys in. I think it's hard to feel that in this day and age, with the ability to just say, well, you know what? I didn't get 100 touches this year, so I'm going to go to Iowa where I'm going to get 150. I'm not saying that this is something I know. I'm just saying it's a hard day and age to make everyone happy. And it's also a hard day and age to stay happy, I would assume, like when there's things out there and there's tampering and no one's really playing by any rules. That's a whole nother can of worms that we don't have to talk about.
No, I think it's interesting because I do think there's something to that. Before, it was, Melvin Gordon was the young guy in that group, and he was there. He was, saw the progression of his career, and he was sitting behind those guys. So it was, okay, help me use his skill set to help the team now and to keep him content to developing and progressing, knowing that he was going to, obviously was the guy for years, 3, 4, 5 or whatever it was. But yeah, I think it's different because some of those young guys now, if you put Melvin in that situation, would he have left at some point, not being the guy early in his career? I don't know. And, that would be a question for him. But yeah, it's a totally different day and age in college football.
Well, if you are one of those athletes who does have those NIL deals, or is being, getting a little interest, whether you're in high school or college, guess what you got to do? You got to make sure you get your money right. And the only person to do that with is our main man, Chris Anicetti, and his entire team at Oak Bridge Wealth Management. If you are an NCAA athlete with NIL deals, or the parent of a current or future NCAA athlete, Chris and his team are the people you need to get in touch with to make sure your money is taking care of you off the field so you can do what you do best, perform on the field. We know that athletes train harder as hard as anyone out there in the world to make sure that they are going to do their best. But who's going to make sure they're winning off the field? Oak Bridge Wealth Management. That's who. They build a rock solid financial plan tailored to you to pay your bills, budget, set up LLCs, secure financing for cars, equipment, and whatever else you need so you can focus on your game. Your career is short. Make every dollar count with Oak Bridge Wealth Management, where athletes build lasting wealth. Get in touch with Chris on Instagram at OakBridgeWM_Anicetti. That's OakBridgeWM_ANICETE. Or head on over to their website, OakBridgeWealthMGMT.com. Chris Anicetti, Oak Bridge Wealth Management. Get your money right. These athletes are getting their money right these days. We're seeing all sorts of interesting stuff. Brady, I don't think we actually asked you this when you were here last time. What would your dream NIL deal have been when you were a UW player?
Oh, man, that's a great question. So I would say, at the time, you really cherished your moped, so maybe a nice moped deal would have been a good start, or something to do with the outdoors, whether it be like a hunting trip or, a nice tree stand or something like that. A pretty low bar I'm setting for myself there, but that would have been pretty cool.
Listen, that sounds like a lot of fun and very cool. And I'm sure in Wisconsin, that's a hot ticket, my friend. Listen, people love hunting, fishing, outdoor stuff. It's all there is. So I know we want to talk about what you're doing today, and I think it correlates with some of my new questions that I had about the team and for the team. So Brady, why don't you tell us what you're doing now? And then I have 2 Wisconsin Badger questions to ask you.
Sounds good. Yeah. So now I'm working with, my day job per se is working with Kelly Supply, doing national coordinator, working with dairy manufacturers and other manufacturing facilities, helping supply all the different materials and things that they need in their day-to-day world. But I'd say as equally or more excited about working with businesses and high schools and athletic programs in doing keynote presentations or working with their team for culture building and just helping and supporting them in the mission of bringing together a team and all these different individuals in the pursuit of one goal. And then on top of that, working a little bit with individual coaching with some high school athletes and those transitioning into college as well. So that's keeping me busy and fulfilled, really enjoying it.
So first, it sounds great. By the way, I don't think many people do this stuff. So it's I would say much needed as an athlete who could progress from where elementary school to possibly like the professional leagues. The mental has become a huge part. It used to be just get back out there. What do they say? You got your bell rung and just keep going, like
Rub a little dirt on it.
that's not okay anymore, as we figured out.
Right.
A lot of people like Matt Bernstein walking around into trees and stuff. No, I'm kidding. So Brady, this actually brings me to 2 things I want to ask you.
Yeah.
So as you do what you're doing with high schools and coaches and all this, what do you think the Badgers need to do? Like, what would you, if you went into see the Badgers today, you'd be like, this is what I think you need. It can be personnel, it could be coaching,
Yeah.
I would love to hear your thoughts.
Well, I don't know if this is a Wisconsin specific thing, but I think the past couple years with the challenges they've had probably makes it that much more important to address something like that. But with the transfer portal, with NIL, and like we talked about with the 3 running backs in the running back room, having the ability to bring the team together from all of these different backgrounds, people that, when we were in school, you had the blessing of having consistency generally amongst classes, and now that's totally transient. Guys are coming and going, and so the ability to come together as a unit and chase one goal and one dream together throughout that season is that much more important. And so I think doing some work around team building, some culture building type stuff would be really well prescribed in college athletics in general, and especially with Wisconsin Badgers right now with some of the challenges they've had the past couple of years and the way their schedule lines up this year, it's going to be tough.
Brady, are we fullbacks? You just keep teeing me up for my questions. I love this.
We're the same way.
Yeah, we're on the same. Listen, we're playing the hardest schedule in the entire nation, right? No one can do that right at right this second. Same kind of thing. You've played major opponents. You've beat major opponents. You were in the NFL. You beat major opponents in the NFL. What's it take, man? What's it take to do it once? What's it take to do it 7 or 8 times in the same season? And to me, that's more of an NFL thing, right? Like every week, every seems like the Super Bowl. It's not so much in college, but still, you got to get through 2 first games and then go to Alabama playing a Super Bowl. And then the week after is whoever, and then the week after is somebody. So I would love to hear your thoughts on, in your day-to-day today, how you get these kids to believe in that and what it was like for you to literally play Super Bowls almost all the time.
Yeah, I think it starts with your preparation. I think it's tough to go out, especially in college football. I mean, you can't go out and just turn it on a Saturday. And maybe if you're able to do that and able to sneak away with one, you're going to be exposed in the coming week because, I just think back to the whole process of our preparation at Wisconsin, from the weight room to the winter conditioning as a team to spring ball to summer conditioning. Like, it was fully, I at least believed as a player, it was fully thought out on what we were going to do, how we were going to do it. And it was all going back to, okay, what's our identity as a team and what's that schedule look like coming up this coming year? And back then we had a few easier opponents in, the Indianas, the Purdues of the world, and now those have changed. And so everybody in the Big Ten and adding in some of these teams in different coasts, um, it is a challenge. It is a Super Bowl every week. So being able to bring that week after week in your preparation, your consistency, dealing with the crowd, you're gonna lose, you're gonna fail. So how do you bounce back from that? Have the right mindset to actually be resilient and respond, whether you win or whether you lose, to just go back to work and start that process again. So, um, yeah, I mean, it's going to be challenging for this team to reestablish an identity and go do that, especially with this schedule. As a former player, I don't really envy that at all. That's a tough schedule, man. But hey, if you want to be the best, I guess go beat the best, and have to do it week after week. It's going to be fun to watch.
S- So outside of wins and losses, what is going to be an indicator for you that this team has made progress?
Yeah, having that identity, and I think I don't I don't necessarily want to see, say just, winning the game is success, right? It's like, okay, can we put drives together? Do we have different, do we have, if somebody gets hurt, do we have a backup you can plug and play and put in and still be serviceable? I feel like that is everybody's first opportunity to get out on the field. So I mean, basic goal setting, right? Obviously you want to be, not lose a game. But the reality is with this schedule, you're going to lose a game. How do you respond to that? How do you, how do you put a drive together? How do you respond when you have a 3-and-out or a turnover? How do you come back that next drive to then, lay another egg? Or are you able to go transition that mindset and go drive down and go score? How are we scoring? Are we doing it in, one big play on third or fourth down? Or are we doing it by consistently leading the change? Like just playing good football. I just want to see Wisconsin play consistent, good football. And we saw some flashes of that the past couple of years, but with what we've, with the offensive mindset shift, I think we'll see more of that in that identity and the history of Wisconsin that Bernstein laid the foundation for. We'll be hitting on all cylinders.
Yes, and I agree with everything you're saying. I think it's buy-in. In this day and age when you could be on a different team tomorrow, you got to go somewhere and buy in, right? Like, Brady, you can't go to the NFL and not buy into that team. You're never going to make the team, right? You can't. So I think buy-in is important. And I agree, man. I want to see better football, like just productive football. And I also want to see guys having a good time. Because for all the SH blank T that we did on the offseason, and as you mentioned it, winter conditioning, all that stuff sucks. Summer conditioning was probably the hardest thing you could do. And then you go to camp, which sucks even more. And then you get to play in football games in front of 80,000 people at Camp Randall and millions of people watching every day. Wisconsin loves you because you're a football player, and you should enjoy that, right? Like all this stuff you did and put up and getting MF'd and yelled at and like told where to be and just all of this stuff, let it out on the field, but in a fun way, man. Just enjoy playing for the Motion W. And I think that might be something you lose when you transfer schools a bunch. Is that it's not so fun anymore. Like you're playing for your boys because you were literally there for 4 years with each other. Whether you liked Wu-Tang or not, you're there for 4 years together or 5, and you play because you love them and you love the W. So I want buy-in and just looking like you're right on offense. Just move the ball a little bit more, score a little bit more. Be happy. 3-and-outs are killer to watch. It almost, Brady, I know you're an offense guy. Watching a 3-and-out is like you can hear the I feel like I'm getting yelled at from my couch.
You can just hear it in the back of your head all game.
All game. And then I feel like on Monday I hear it too when I'm getting yelled at for watching film on Monday. So I agree with everything you're saying. Just let's go out and have a good time, and good things are going to happen.
Yeah, and I love how you put that so basic, but yet it was profound in the fact that seeing, having these players just have fun. And I think when you do transfer around, it's making college like the professional. I mean, there's been tons of people talking about that over the past couple of years, but Yeah, I think there's something about coming together as a unit and figuring out the best way to do that. And I think that was the genesis of your original question, and so I think that is pretty profound. Yeah.
Well, thanks for I got a C plus in this in podcasting, I guess. Dave minus not for AB or BC. What did they do? They didn't do BC.
Bernie, I'm giving you at least an AB. I mean, for me personally, like I'm biased, obviously, so like I would give you an A. I don't think that we they do A pluses at UW, which is a shame. Well, it's probably not a shame because I wouldn't have gotten any anyway.
You don't even know what a plus looks like.
No, definitely not that AB BBC range. Like, yeah, that's the wheelhouse, baby.
That like 2.5 to 2.8, I feel like is a pretty good window for a lot of football players.
I graduated with a 3.01, so I barely got that 3.0, but I got that 3.01.
You could tell people like I graduated above a 3.0.
Yeah.
I love that. Actually, I would do
Not
it.
that that, like, actually matters, like, at all, like, I don't like, even when I was applying to grad schools, like, no one asked what my GPA was.
Yeah.
Like,
I was only asked that one time.
Yeah.
When I
Whatever.
first left college. Now nobody cares what I got. Don't hope no one at the foundation's listening because
C's get degrees, baby. That's all I'm gonna say. So,
Your next review, you're gonna get asked some weird
I'm
questions.
gonna be like, "What'd you get as a GPA or what was your SAT scores?" I'll be like, "Man, it was good enough to get into Wisconsin, but not great enough." I don't know. It was fine. It was okay. It broke 1,000. See, I got over 1,000, Matt Perkins.
There you go. Good job, Bernie. I was good at standardized tests, so that was not the issue for me. But so Brady, we're gonna get you out of here on this. What off the field for you are your goals in the next year? You personally,
Man,
what are you trying to do to make an impact in your community and in your family and just the people around you this year?
dude, love that question. Bernie, you might have got trumped there. That was a good one. I love that.
This guy's still. I'm telling you, he got an AB, got over a 3.0. Like
That was good.
You could tell.
I love it, Matt. No, I think as sad as it sounds, and we might have talked about this a couple weeks ago, Matt, but my family and I just went on vacation out to South Dakota and we absolutely loved it. So I took a week off work and totally disconnected, went out to South Dakota, the Badlands, Black Hills, Custer State Park, just doing that whole tour. We had an absolute blast. So I think making that a priority as we go forward with a young family. We have 4 boys under 10 years old, 10 down to 4. And so just making things like that a priority, I think off the field per se is huge for me. I have a tendency to just put my nose down and work, which I think is a good attribute, but being able to unplug, like the work will always be there to come back to. I have no problem working hard, doing all that, but keeping the priorities from that front. And then I'd say from a speaking perspective, off the field again is I have a ton of fun working with athletes, and I feel like that's where I engage most is with athletes or full student bodies at high schools. I recently did a speaking engagement with a group of coaches in an athletic department, and I thought that was a really cool way to I learned some things working with them and workshopping some of this stuff, but also be able to coach the coach per se and give them tools to go use with their teams to go help them be the best they can be and hopefully continue to build up their student athletes. So I'd love to continue to grow that side of my business, a loose term from the speaking side of things, but continue to work with more coaches and help them to be the best they can be in leading their student athletes.
Dude, so that's why you're so skinny. You're chasing 4 boys under 10, and that's why you don't eat either, because you got 4 mouths to feed. That seem like they're hungry. Do you ever see
I just get the scraps left over.
it's like bones here and there? Yeah. So that's why you don't have hair. It's like all those things. Yeah. I already have 2 kids, and I feel like I'm exhausted. My wife and I argued about a minivan. So do you have one?
So this is interesting. This might be helpful for you. So my wife was like anti minivan, totally anti minivan. And she's like, nope, I need a Tahoe or Suburban. So we got the Tahoe maybe about 4 or 5 years ago before our youngest son came. And now 4 or 5 years later, she's she's like, man, I wish we would have done the minivan because bigger trunk, more. The newer ones are all tricked out with like vacuums in them and stuff like that. It's like, wow, that is super functional as a mom, as a dad, as a young family. So you got one? You thinking about it?
I want one so bad. I I want one more than anything else. And Allie's like, you will never own a minivan. Like you ever see anytime like in a show like a supernatural show, they turn the eyes are blazing red. She's like, you will never. It's almost like watching The Exorcist. It's like, you will never own a minivan, Matthew. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I will not own a minivan, but I want one. It's my dream.
Hey, man.
You know what? I don't even have kids, and I want a minivan. Like I've got 2 listen, we've had our over Christmas holidays this year. My wife and I were driving to Chicago to see my in-laws, and our car got rear-ended and totaled on the highway. And so we had a minivan for like 6 weeks, and I was in heaven. Like I love driving the minivan. We've had the minivan multiple times, like as a rental car. They're like, oh, we're out of these. You can either have like a minivan, or I'm like, I don't give me the other option. Give me the minivan.
It's the cheapest option. It doesn't make any sense.
It's so comfortable.
And it gets gas mileage. It's like all the things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally letting go of your self-pride and just embracing it, because there's so many great things that come from it. So my wife should make that full transition. Maybe yours will too, buddy.
You got to buy into that minivan life, and I'm bought in without one. That's
Minivan mafia.
It's a social movement.
It's never happening, but I would love. I just with 6 people to drive around all the time, dude. That is, I can ask you 100 dad questions, because does it take an hour and a half to get anywhere? Like you have to strap all these kids in, get them dressed, fed. I don't even know how you work. I'd be like, from 9 to 12, we're going to try to get you to school. And we're going to pick you up at 3 and try to get you to bed.
Yeah, it's crazy. We've gotten better as they get older. It does get better. So our 10-year-old can actually, strap his own shoes up. Our 8-year-old could do the same. So we just got to work with the 4-year-old, make sure he's good to go. But yeah, I mean, during spring sports seasons, if my wife was taking them here this summer to like the pool or something, she'd have them pack their bags for baseball practice that night. And usually I was working, I help coach baseball, so I meet him there, but it was inevitable. I'll get a call or a text like, hey, Booker forgot his cleats, Brennan forgot his gloves. And so, yeah, it's a struggle out there. You're just making ends meet, trying to do the best you can. So I'm in it with you.
Parenthood.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Bradie, we can't thank you enough for hopping back on with us once again. We absolutely love chatting with you, chopping it up. And we appreciate everyone here tuning in to Believe in Badgers on the Believe Network, presented by FanDuel and Oak Bridge Wealth Management. We'll be back again soon with a very special episode with not one, but 2 former Badgers who happen to be related. So we'll be back with that next time. But until then, thanks for tuning in on Wisconsin.
On Wisconsin.